right. Welcome, everyone, to the September 15, 2023 meeting of the Citizen Oversight Board. We welcome any members of the public who are or will be joining us. Thank you. We're very pleased to have with us today Chief Ron Thomas, who we will get to in just a moment. And we thank Chief Thomas for being with us today. Just want to remind any members of the public that they can submit questions or comments through the Q&A function in the Zoom. And then a couple of announcements I want to make before we start with Chief Thomas. The City Council has officially opened applications for our one vacant board seat. And so we invite members of the public, if they are interested, to please apply immediately, because the deadline is actually Sunday, this Sunday, September 17th. Normally there aren't deadlines on Sunday, but for some reason there is. Anyway, the link to apply is on our website and on social media. So we encourage people to do so. Another announcement that we wish to make is that Mayor Johnston shared his proposed budget yesterday, and we're pleased to see that our requests and OIM's requests have been incorporated into this proposed budget. And specifically, the COB is going to receive an additional $13,800 to cover increased stipend payments and cover outreach events, which we are very engaged in and have been and plan to continue doing so in 2024. And the Office of Independent Monitor in the proposed budget would be authorized to hire an additional deputy monitor starting in April of 2024. So we're also pleased that the mayor has included that in his proposed budget for the additional staffing for the OIM. With that, I think we will commence with our discussion with Chief Thomas. And again, we welcome Chief Thomas to our meeting. And we did submit some questions in advance. Chief Thomas, if you want to just start with those, and then members of the board and our members of the public can chime in, as appropriate as they wish to do so. So thank you very much, Chief.
Okay, and thank you, Daniel, for sending these over, giving me enough time to kind of get some answers to these inquiries. So I'll just start with the first one, which was how many times in 2021, 2022, and 2023, or at least the early part of 2023, has the DPD responded to DSD calls, and then how many of those resulted in criminal offenses occurring in the jails? And so in 2021, we had 307 responses to the two DSD facilities, that being the city jail and the county jail. 221 of those resulted in criminal events. In 2022, we had 328 responses to those two facilities for 261 criminal events. And thus far in 2023, 392 responses to the two facilities, resulting in 322 criminal events. The second question was in relation to the discipline order that was issued in relation to a domestic violence detective that had mishandled a case. And there was language in the discipline order that talked about the high volume of cases being managed by a small investigative unit. And so the questions are, how many detectives are currently assigned to the domestic violence unit? The staffing there is 11 detectives, 2 sergeants to manage those 11 detectives, 1 lieutenant to manage the unit, and then there's always a regular rotation of training detectives. So these are our officers who are going through detective training. And so there's always 1 or 2 officers in detective training that are rotating through the domestic violence unit to assist with that caseload. Previously it was reported that there were over 1,000 active cases being handled by the detectives there. Currently, it's just over 600 open cases spread amongst those detectives and trainees. Many of those, however, are awaiting arrest warrants or decisions by the district attorney, so they're not necessarily being actively worked at this point in time. And then the third question as it relates to that topic is what significant changes have been made to the structure operations of the domestic violence unit since I took over leadership of the department. A handful of things. So we've developed a direct file process when appropriate, where responding officers or even detectives on low-level issues can direct file directly into court. So it's a much shorter process, doesn't involve a lot of investigation. Also eliminated the requirement to review all of the body-worn camera before presentation to the DA. That's one thing that takes a long time to get cases presented to the district attorney. Now we're only asking that, the only requirement is that they review all of the body-worn camera prior to it going to court. And as we understand, a much lower rate of these cases actually go to court. So that lessens the need to watch all that body-worn camera. The other thing is our Axon system has the ability to transcribe, and so that's something that is being used, so that drastically reduces the time it takes to do the case summaries. We've also dedicated backfill, so this is monies that are in reserve because of our vacancy savings. And what we're doing with backfill is having individuals that are trained as investigators work on some of these lower level cases, so that the DV unit can actually focus on the more critical cases. And then as I discussed before, we've got our domestic violence training, or our detective training program, where there's always a regular rotation through the domestic violence unit. And we understand that the detective training program is kind of a career builder opportunity for officers. And then lastly, we've assigned a public safety cadet to perform a lot of the clerical work that was previously done by the detective. So we have a cadet that does that work. The next question related to our MOU, and I think everybody.
Chief, could I, if you wouldn't mind, can I stop you there and ask some questions just about that last set of questions?
Absolutely.
About the DV unit? Okay. So do you feel, by the way, the changes you've made seem to be, very positive in terms of really focusing on this very important issue. Do you feel that with those changes that you've implemented, that the DV unit is appropriately staffed? Do you feel in any way that unit is understaffed? Are you pretty satisfied with the current staffing and the current resources and how things are being processed in that unit?
Well, I'll say that I'm satisfied with the progress that has been made there. Certainly, we are under a kind of a workload review right now to determine workload across the district or across the city, with all of our investigative units, to see if there's a need to do any shifting as it relates to evening out the manageable workload. And so certainly, if I identify that that the domestic violence unit's workload is significantly higher than other investigative units' workload, then certainly I'll make some adjustments to make sure that that they're not working any harder than any other investigative unit.
Okay. And as I understood you to say, in order to streamline this a bit, and you're saying that it's not required for you all to review the body-worn camera footage before presenting preliminarily a case to the district attorney's office, but of course, the district attorney's office reviews all that evidence before they would charge somebody. Is that essentially, you said before going to court? I'm just interpreting that as before they would bring any actual charges.
That's correct. And so, so before, they'll I think do their investigative due diligence, bring the case to the district attorney without having to watch all of the body-worn camera. When I say all of the body-worn camera, that could be like all 10 officers who responded to that particular call. But they certainly would have to be able to establish probable cause in order for them to get an arrest warrant or get the DA to accept that case. And then prior to that case moving to trial, then certainly that investigator would have to review all of that so that they could be responsive to any question that would come out of that.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
Sure, absolutely. So I think going back to our MOUs, I think everybody is aware that we had the Denver Nuggets parade, very large footprint there, and we had to ask for some assistance. Arapahoe County was one of the jurisdictions that helped us. And so the question is, was this the first time that we'd utilized the written mutual aid agreement with Arapahoe County? I think the answer to that is yes. And just walking through the process of how that works, essentially what we do is we identify an event that needs significant safety coverage, and then we identify how much of that coverage we can cover with our own department or city resources. There are events that go on all the time, Bronco games, Rockies games, parades. There's all kinds of events that happen in Denver. The overwhelming majority of which we're able to manage with our own staff, but there are some that are extremely large, like celebration parades for our major sports teams. That footprint to that is much larger than we can manage ourselves. So once we identify that, we do ask for assistance, and there's 3 jurisdictions that we currently have standing MOUs with. That would be State Patrol, Arapahoe County, and Douglas County. And so once we identify that there is an event that has a footprint larger than we can cover ourselves, our special operations unit determines what piece of that they want another jurisdiction to cover. And then there's a request that is made by our Special Operations Bureau to that specific jurisdiction. And that's often accompanied by one-on-one communication between myself and that agency CEO. So
I take it, Chief, we're not reaching out to Aurora at this point because of their city council's decision to decide to require us to indemnify their officers for any of their conduct in connection with events.
Well, I mean, that does have something to do with it. Yes, I guess the short answer to that is yes. Certainly, we'll continue to forge a relationship with Aurora, understanding that we share a border, and understanding that that there may be a situation where we could use additional help. Certainly, we don't hope that ever happens, but there could be a situation where we could use additional assistance that would be welcome from anyone that will agree to our terms.
Question.
Thank you.
Yes, I think Karen had a question.
Yes. Good morning, Chief.
Morning.
I'm curious to know what is different, assuming that the MOUs that you've got in place now are different from the prior either MOUs or agreements that you had with other counties to come in and render aid. What's different about these MOUs in comparison to past agreements that help avoid the kind of situation that occurred where outlying county aid was not in compliance with the kind of use of force policies that Denver had?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So really that's just it. I mean, in order for us to enter into an MOU with these 3 jurisdictions, they had to agree to follow all of our rules in terms of our use of force, when we can engage and when we cannot. We are embedding our own staff in their contingents, making sure that they understand our rules, continue to follow our rules, and are not indemnified if they violate our rules, and then making sure that we are on the right communication channels, and that they supply us with a roster that we can include in the operations plan.
Okay.
So then moving on to the community homicide review, which is a new thing that I've instituted. We did our first one about a month ago, I think. And what is the goal here, and how often will these happen? So The goal here is to essentially build a multidisciplinary team that includes the Denver Police Department, other city agencies, and other community stakeholders to potentially make environmental or social changes to a location where a homicide has occurred. So, the effort here is to build community trust by disclosing more information about, causal factors that are associated with a violent crime, and ultimately trying to forge a team sort of into a violence prevention network that can be mobilized to address patterns of crime in these areas. The first one seemed to be a big hit. Everybody, even from Councilman Cashman, who attended, thought that it was tremendously valuable. The frequency, we'd like to do this quarterly. We've kind of divided the city up into zones, and so we'll move on to the next zone and identify which specific incidents that we can discuss and try to identify what kinds of causal factors they may have been that either community partners or other city partners can address to prevent another violent crime from occurring at that location. The next question is an overview of the ways Denver Police Department is considering using drones. Glad that this is being discussed right now. So, certainly tactical search operations would be one use that we would be looking forward to, and that would be pursuant to an arrest warrant or a search warrant. If we're looking for a subject who maybe we believe to be secreted outside, and we've got an arrest warrant for that person, we would like to deploy a drone to look in places that we cannot safely go. And also, I think it could be done much more quickly. And then search warrants where we have a warrant to be inside of a place. It would be valuable to be able to deploy a drone into an entrance to be able to surveil and see where the dangers may be, or see if the suspect is even present inside. Search and rescue missions, certainly a great use for a drone. So we're lost or missing children, Alzheimer's or dementia patients. We usually have a pretty we generally understand what zone is likely that these individuals may be in, and we could certainly cover that much more quickly if we were able to deploy a drone in the air and scan the area. And then lastly, using a drone as a first responder, we think that there's a tremendous use there. Being able to send a drone to a call for service to do a couple of things. One, to see if it's even necessary for police to respond to a location, or if they are needed to respond to a location, that drone could provide us with essential information. It could provide us with whether or not there's an incident occurring right now. It could provide us information as it relates to whether or not there's a weapon, or how many people are there to inform whether or not we need to have more than one officer respond. And we've already done some research on this, and we understand that there is the ability to lock the video feed, so that it doesn't start recording until it gets within I think 100 meters of the call for service location. That video feed could be shared with all public safety in real time. I imagine we could even put that footage on a dashboard to show the public, and we're certainly able to download the flight path so that it is also available on a dashboard, just so that people can see how are we deploying this, where is it going when it's deployed, and what is it able to see once it's deployed. And so we believe that it actually will be able to improve our response times, better manage our resources, and allow us to respond much smarter and safer.
Chief, Chief, what's the timeline for, I know, there was a policy that I think was even circulated to us, and I think OIM looked at it with respect to the drone policy. Has that been finalized? When do you anticipate moving forward?
Yes, so it has not been finalized. The first thing I want to do is introduce it to City Council, to their safety committee. and we are prepared to do that. But I think the other thing that was important for us to do is actually obtain a drone. And so we've found some grant monies that will allow us to obtain a drone. And so I think next steps are to gain city council approval, and then finalize a policy, and then obtain this drone, and then we can start talking about what kinds of acceptable uses for this drone.
Thank you.
Chief,
Yes.
I think you mentioned using the drones for search warrants, and that would be interior, right? Inside or a building or a residence.
Yes.
So how would you gain access to the interior of, say, for instance, a house to execute a search warrant with a drone?
That could happen a couple different ways. So, we could find an open door or an open window. We could force open a door or break a window. So, we would have to create an entry point for the drone. But again, this is a location where we've already obtained a search warrant, where we've already obtained the authority to make entry. But we just understand that it would be safer to use a drone rather than have officers going through a door, and I think it would limit the number of potential deadly force encounters.
Would that strictly be for no-knock warrants, or would the drone have the capability of announcing its presence?
So we would, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of further clarify this. So I don't anticipate doing a no-knock warrant unless there's a significantly justifiable reason. Again, we haven't done a no-knock warrant in a long time, and we aren't seeking opportunities to do that. So this would be a situation where we have knocked, we have announced our presence, but we're not getting compliance. No one is coming out to us, but we believe that there is somebody in there that we need to, one, recover, and two, see where they're secreted at. So this would not be a mechanism to execute a no-knock warrant. We would be knocking, we would be announcing our presence, and we probably would be announcing our presence for a significant period of time before we move to deploying the drone. Okay, so I think moving on, question 6. The question is, have you made any changes to the use of force review board? I know that there was a comment about that in the annual report. At the moment, no, I have not made any changes, but I am looking forward to making changes, and I'll describe what that looks like. As I think everyone is aware, there are 2 community members that sit and have a vote on our use of force review board. And those 2 individuals have been in that position for a number of years. And I understand the concern with that. And so my plan is to use city council to have them make nominations of individuals that they're familiar with in their community in order to create a pool of individuals that would be interviewed by both DPD staff as well as staff from the Office of the Independent Monitor. Once selections are made, they'll go through a background check. We would ask that they go through our community academy so that they have some understanding of department operations. We'd like them to go on at least an annual ride-along, and then make sure that they have instruction on our use of force policy, on all of our less lethal options. And then the desire would be to kind of place them in a rotation so that when we do have these use of force review board panels, we can reach out to kind of the next 2 in the rotation and have them seated for that process rather than just using the same 2 individuals over and over again. So that's the plan. So the next step for me is to reach out to city council and make that request for them to provide me with names. The second question relates to the dashboards that I have created, and specifically the dashboard specific to community engagements. And all community engagements, whether they're police or community partner initiated, are listed on this dashboard. There's not any work being done to create new dashboards. However, I'm certainly open to the idea of new dashboards. What the community would like to see is something that I'd like to work on creating a dashboard for. Certainly, there may be an opportunity to have our strategic plan listed on a dashboard, as well as I know that there's a lot of community concern as it relates to our school resource officers. So creating a dashboard that informs about our school resource officer program, I think would be something that would have community favor. Number 8 is, have I made any changes to the letters corresponding to disciplinary questions? The answer to that is I have not. And am I considering any changes? Not currently. However, I'm certainly open to suggestions. So if there is a suggestion as it relates to the letters that are sent to complainants who are complaining of officer misconduct, if there is a desire to change what that looks like, what information is contained in that, certainly open to talking about what that looks like. Number 9 is how many times has DPD deflected, arrest, or taken or referred individuals to the AIDS Center? So year to date, the AIDS Center has served just over 800 people, and about 10% of that number were directly referred by DPD. Outside of that, since 2021, we have been involved with substance use navigators as well as law enforcement assisted diversion. And we have made contact with just shy of 3,000 people that are eligible. And of those 3,000 that were eligible, just over 1,200 of them were connected or referred to services. The question is, do I believe that rate is where it should be? I'd certainly like to see more. Certainly, I think our entire agency would like to do everything that we can to help people address their, particularly their substance misuse challenges. And so certainly we would like to do more of that if we're able to. And are there efforts underway to increase that number? Yes. So we are working with AIDS Center staff. We are also working with the substance use navigation and the law enforcement assisted diversion team in order to increase those opportunities for referral. So I'm hoping that the next time I'm reporting on this data that I can give greater numbers.
Chief, can you describe what the substance abuse navigator does?
Yes. So basically, when we contact someone, sometimes they are in a acute state. Sometimes they're just kind of long-time misusers of a particular substance. We try to connect them with an individual within the Department of Safety who can connect them with a resource, often a treatment center, in order to help them address their misuse issue. And kind of the difference between very subtle differences, I think, between substance use navigation and law enforcement assisted diversion. Sometimes the difference is the presence of leverage, where there may be a criminal charge that someone is hoping to have diverted in court if they follow through with drug treatment or something like that.
So is drug court a part of the units or the facilities that people are referred to for diversion?
Well, not as of yet, because there's really essentially not a drug court. But I do know that this is one of Mayor Johnston's plans. I know that he is working with the district attorney, working with the presiding judge in order to better stand up a drug court so that we can address those individuals that have those substance misuse issues and make sure that they are better funneled into a system that can more appropriately address their issues.
So with that type of court, then not necessarily come into use as a result of an arrest?
Well, I mean, I think more often than not, you are finding yourself in drug court because of contact with law enforcement. You know, you've been arrested for possession, for use, and then you are sort of referred into drug court, and then drug court, because they're dealing with that specific challenge, it has, I think that they have a veil of and better focus on the resources that are available to treat those individuals that have those concerns.
I'm sorry, it was sounding like maybe you were contemplating a different kind of drug court in terms of what the process would be for a person being referred to a drug court, because there still exists a drug court, right? In Denver District Court, at least.
So I think there are problem courts, but I think the drug court that we had become used to years ago doesn't exist in the same format, and so nor is there coordination at this point in time with treatment. So I'm pretty familiar with the mayor's plan as it relates to those individuals, particularly the unhoused that have substance misuse issues, being able to get them into a court that can better direct them into treatment and resources for their challenges.
Chief, Karen, were you done? Did you have any follow-up?
Thank you. I'm finished.
Okay, Chief, with respect to, I mean, you mentioned that you would like to see the number of deflections increased, and I think so would we, in terms of making greater use of the aid center. The one thing that we talked to a couple of us talked to Emily about, and also Carlin, who the director of the aid center, is it's the hours there that basically, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, and I know this is outside your purview, but a lot of events where the aid center could be used very productively happen at night after the aid center is closed. And I know that DPD tries to do what they can with people who may be eligible for the aid center, but and try to avoid arrest. But I'm not familiar with whether this is an issue that was incorporated in the proposed budget that Mayor Johnston submitted yesterday. But that could sure make a big difference if the aid center was open during evening hours, and I would think would also be welcomed by DPD.
Well, certainly there's value in creating that warm handoff. And so, that's why we're having discussions with the aid center. I don't know that it necessarily has to involve them expanding their hours. Certainly that would be helpful. But even outside of that, I think that there are other things that we can do to increase the rate of people engaging in the services that the aid center provides.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I mean, I would think a lot of events could happen at night. And so if you can't use the aid center after 5 o'clock, I think that puts kind of puts a little bit of some restrictions there. But what are some of the things that you're saying that could increase the use of the aid center, irrespective of the hours?
I mean, I think being able to better describe the types of resources that are available, just to kind of encourage folks to when the aid center does open, just kind of encourage them to go there. Maybe even we have outreach case coordinators in the districts that I think can reconnect with these individuals and direct them to the aid center. So I think there's a number of things that we can all put our heads together on to determine ways to get folks to the aid center or get them to the services that are going to be helpful to them, without necessarily having to increase the hours of the aid center, because I know that there's staffing issues as it relates to that. There, the services that are being housed within the aid center, I think, also have, their own staffing challenges as well. And so I think we really just need to continue to come together and talk about what that looks like going forward, and creative ways that we can, without that warm handoff, if that's not likely, to increase the likelihood that someone is going to take advantage of the services that are available. So I know that I'm committed. I know that Carlone and others are committed to figuring that out.
Okay, well, we welcome that dialogue. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, one other question. So with the ideas that you envision, exclude either arrest or detention of the people that you have contact with after hours?
Yeah, it would. I mean, each of these individuals are certainly, well, I won't say each of them, but I think, a high percentage of them are certainly eligible for arrest. But I think at the end of the day, we recognize that we're not helping them with their challenge by putting them in jail, having them bond out, and then having them go to court much later. And then even after they go to court, there's not necessarily a mechanism that helps them address their challenge. And so, I think that our focus is not necessarily on the users in the first place. It's more on the dealers. I think our desire is to be able to connect the low level users to services. I think that's what officers would prefer to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So I think the last few things related to the auditor's report back in June. The first question is, has DPD created a more detailed strategic plan? Working on that now. Follow-up to that is, will it be made publicly available? Absolutely, it will be once that is completed. Second question is, have changes to recruiting and retention been made since the report was issued? Yes, again. Those changes include creating a specific strategic plan, expanding our advertising across all mediums, mostly online and using social media. We have simplified the interest form that folks fill out. We actually have seen a jump in the submission of those interest forms since we simplified the form. We have worked with our information management unit to create candidate management software so that we can kind of better manage and better identify where candidates are in the pipeline, so that we can make sure that they get to the next stage in the process. We have created online training modules to assist applicants with completing and doing well on the test. We've established morale committee, and this is more related to retention, but we've established a morale committee to identify issues to address that may that would seem to get people to want to stay here longer. We've created a talent review process to assist with career development, so that people can have can aspire to higher positions within the department or more specialized work. And then we've begun exit interviews to identify reasons for early separation that are actionable. So, trying to track reasons why people leave to see if there's something that we can do about that. One of the things that we've identified is that there are a lot of mothers who are leaving because of childcare issues. And so one of the things that we are working on is actually a daycare center that is able to be used by by safety, so that so that maybe we can remove that barrier. But again, just maintaining a spreadsheet of the reasons why people are separating to see what reasons are things that we can act upon. Question about the $200,000 state grant that we received for recruiting efforts. Some of that funding was directed at our Before the Badge and Beyond the Blue program that I think you all are familiar with. We've done 2 of those already. We have a 3rd upcoming here when we start our next academy class in September. We also secured a professional marketing firm that will assist us with targeted recruiting. Some of that funding has gone to work with Telemundo, who's helping us with a series of ads on all of their platforms. And we're also positioned to purchase some new marketing materials in both English and Spanish so that we can bring those to our recruiting events. Next question is, do I have plans to expand the use of our in-house physical therapists and mental health services? No, and mainly because the budget does not allow for that at this point in time. Certainly, I recognize that those are valuable services. We continue to advertise those services and make sure that officers understand that they are available for them. And certainly when we are able to make some increases so that there are more physical therapists and more mental health services, although I think our mental health services are actually quite robust. Certainly, as funding allows, we will continue to expand on that. And then I think the last question was, I think I talked before about the development of a tool to screen for compassion fatigue. And so to kind of explain that, our professional development section is creating a comprehensive early warning system that will encompass wellness markers, performance thresholds, as well as identifying potential compassion fatigue. And what that looks like is, software that will track stressors to include calls for service that may impact people's health or professionalism or their customer service. And then when people meet these identified thresholds, they'll be triaged by a care team that I envision being made up of human resources, our professional development unit, as well as our wellness team to determine intervention strategies, very individualized intervention strategies. So I think that concludes all the questions I was presented. Certainly welcome to answer more.
Any members of the board have questions, or members of the public who are attending the meeting? Okay, Chief. Well, hearing none, we thank you again for attending our meeting and answering our questions, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
All right. Take care. All right. I think we still have a quorum, just barely. But why don't if the folks here had an opportunity to review the minutes from August 25th, if absent any changes, can I get a motion from one of the board members to approve the minutes from 8/25?
So move.
I can
Second.
I will.
Second.
Thank you, Terrence. All right. Any opposed? Okay. Passed. Thank you. Okay. Respect to board business. Daniel, you may want to weigh in on this. The question as to whether we want to move our next meeting with Chief Thomas from October 15th to December 15th. Basis for that would be?
Yeah, Chief Thomas, we usually meet with Chief Thomas at the beginning of each quarter. This quarter, he was unavailable the first Friday. We had to reschedule him. This is now the last Friday of the last meeting of the quarter for us. So it's just a question of whether do we want to meet with him in a month, or do we want to try, do we think we'll, have a productive meeting in a month with him, or do we want to push it back and sort of create more space between meetings? That's the only question. So.
Yeah, I would be in favor of pushing it back for the reason that you identified. I mean, I think it's just more of an opportunity to learn more from the OIM and anything and the public and the like. And they should be quarterly as opposed to if we went forward, it would be basically monthly during the next 2 meetings. So I'm in favor of that, but I welcome board comments on that.
That makes sense to me also.
I agree.
Great.
Okay.
In that sense, then there's the follow-up question to that is, you know, if now that there's there would be an opening in two meetings in a month for the mid-October meeting. Does the board have a preference for? I could see if the 911 director, Andrew Dameron, is available to meet with the board. And I know that's been sort of on the list for a while to sort of meet with him and connect and learn a little bit more about the 911 division and processes. But there's also alternative options that I could look into.
I think that'd be great if he was available.
Great. I can reach out and find out and go from there.
Great, thank you. And that next board meeting is in person, am I right, Daniel?
Yes, the next board meeting, October 6th, as the first board meeting of the quarter, is going to be in person. We do not currently have any special guests scheduled to join us. It'll be more of a sort of planning and administrative time to go over progress towards against the strategic plan that we have in place. So for those board members who are listed as, you know, leads on particular items from the strategic plan, I'll be reaching out to them in the meantime, as well as there's a couple of other potential agenda items for that meeting that are just more, you know, administrative in nature that we can discuss that are still being finalized.
So the two board meetings in October, though, would be October 6th and October 20th. Am I right?
You are correct.
Not the
15th.
15th.
It would be, that's correct. Today's the 15th.
So October 6th and October 20th. So the in-person board meeting is on October 6th.
Correct.
And then we have another meeting that would be remote on October 20th.
Correct.
All right. Okay.
And we would be moving Chief Thomas to December 15th.
Got it. Okay.
I think that's where the numbers go. I may have mixed up the numbers there.
No worries. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Greg, is there anything that you would like to discuss with the board in public session?
No, not in public session.
Okay, but there are some things that you'd like to address in executive session?
Yes, there were some things that Liz wanted me to update you all in regarding to cases.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Daniel, go ahead.
Sorry, I made a last minute addition to the agenda. I wanted to share something with you all. I recently got access to design software that allowed me to sort of put together a brochure for the board rather than having to like contract out the design of that. And I thought I might share with you an initial mock-up of what that brochure draft looks like, and solicit some feedback, and I'll send out PDF copy as well hereafter. But thought I might just give you guys a quick peek at that.
Sure.
Okay, so it is here it is. It is a trifold design with pretty blue white themes, a lot of triangles, and then that's so you would start with this cover on the right side of the screen here. The middle panel here would be on the back, on the rear, and then when you open that initial cover flap, you would see the what we do panel. The left panel here would be on the right, And then on the left would be the pictures and quote here that's on the left panel of the second page. And then when you do that second opening, you would open up sort of the text section with information just about the board, its membership, and sort of expectations or perhaps responsibilities would be a better word there. But again, as I mentioned, happy to. I'll be sending this PDF and the actual copy out for you all to review more closely. Certainly welcome any kinds of copy edits, any kinds of picture, suggestions or comments of don't like this picture, want to move pictures or use a different picture somewhere else, or anything that, throw the whole thing out and start over. That's also entirely reasonable. So
I do like the photo of Karen.
you're in that one too, I believe. So
I know, but I prefer her.
I like the fact that Stefan is pictured twice.
I don't.
Oh, actually all three pictures.
Oh yeah, well that's true. Two events in one meeting. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
It looks
Well,
good. I mean, I especially like the color and how you've set up, the areas of descriptions.
appreciate
very
that.
professional looking, Daniel. Very professional looking. Perhaps we can even, I know you're going to send it around, but I mean, if our next board meeting's in person, we could actually see a hard copy of it
Yeah.
when we're there in the office in 2 weeks, which would be great. But yeah, this sort of thing is long overdue and something we could pass out at events. And I think really presents us well. So thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's I got access to the city made a change to make it much easier to get, temporary licenses for certain software products. And so that was very helpful in this regard. I was able to build off of a template that I was able to find. And so it wasn't 100% me, but just working with customizing that template and process and finding the right one that I think hopefully represents the board well. So wanted to share that with you all and give you a little taste there. And then one other thing I wanted to, before we move into executive session, I just wanted to highlight some upcoming events that board members may be interested in participating in or at. The first one is Saturday, October 14th. It is the district attorney, the Denver district attorney, is hosting a citizen academy open to everyone, not just board members, but members of the general public. But for any board members who might be interested in learning more about, the court and prosecution side of things and how the criminal justice system works, that is happening on Saturday, October 14th. And you do need to apply. There is an application form for that I believe is on the Denver DA's website, but I'm happy to send a direct link out. But wanted to flag that as a potential interest for board members and members of the public who watch board meetings. The second event is Thursday.
You have to apply to attend that?
Yes, space is limited, so they're asking for applications. They're pretty simple applications. I took a glanced at it. I think they're just looking for people who are, serious about attending and learning. So
okay, all right, thank you.
The second event is Thursday, October 26th, and that is a sort of community event at the Far East Center. So that's in Southwest Denver, sort of on Federal, and I think Alameda, but I could be wrong. It's a Far East Center, but it's a trunk or treat event for the community where the board could host a trunk and a table and sort of do outreach work at that event. And so that's, yeah, October 26th, sort of a Halloween themed event that we don't need specific answers to, but wanted to put on the board's radar for as a possible community outreach option. Sorry, were you going to say something? No.
No, I mean, I think that'd be great. If, yeah, why don't you put that? Yeah, I know you're very good about following up by email with these sorts of things, and then we'll see. Why don't we see if board members have interest in either or both of those events, and we can
Sure.
figure it out. Yeah.
And then just one last small reminder that I'm happy to arrange for police ride-alongs with board members. That is now with the updated bylaws part of the training process. So any board members who have not participated in a ride-along, I am happy to arrange. Those can be arranged with quite a bit of flexibility. So happy to help with that.
Okay,
And that's
you would
it.
coordinate that. You would coordinate
Yes.
those. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm interested in doing that. So.
Great.
Karen too. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So why don't we communicate individually?
We'll do that individually. Yeah.
Yeah, me
And
too.
then, and oh, Terrence too. Sorry. And then we can coordinate all this.
Great. I will reach out to you all individually on that front then.
Would we go in our individual districts, or does that make sense?
You would not be limited or restricted to your own district,
Okay.
but I think it would be
Okay.
encouraged.
Okay. Okay, that'd be great. All right. Thank you. All right, unless there's anything further, can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a question for Greg, just kind of off the top, but relative to the use of the drone. Would that require a change in the statute that dictates the use of search warrants?
Well, I think I don't really know how they plan on necessarily using it and what the court order would need to say. I think, one of our positions has been in the past is to get public input on this. I think they
Okay.
have to be careful in how the drone is used and what the drone is actually able to look at. There's definitely, I think, going to be a lot of public concern regarding how it's used, who it's being focused on, how many other people are being captured by the video footage, the neighborhoods this is primarily going to be used in, things like that. And so it's, we're definitely interested in seeing more about it in policy and how it's going to be used, what is the technology that's going to be on the drones and how that will be used. And our positions in the past is for, I think it's important that there, be more public input about this information. And
Okay.
I'm talking about the office in general.
Right.
I think them going to city council is a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, the chief mentioned the policy is going to be presented to the City Council Public Safety Committee, so that will also give the public an opportunity to weigh in. And I'm sure the City Council will and should scrutinize this.
Yeah, and we were able to look at an earlier version. I know sometime back, I think a couple of years ago, we had talked about it, but I haven't seen anything revised. So my guess is they're waiting to see what kind of drone they get, that technology, and to see how they would incorporate that into any new policy. But, we'll definitely look forward to looking at that, reviewing that, hopefully soon.
And
Am I misrecollecting? Wasn't that a draft policy circulated? I thought that Julia had opined, and because she said it was somewhat similar to a policy that Boulder had adopted. Am I remembering that correctly?
Was that sometime recently?
Yeah,
It's about 2 months ago, I think.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, you might want, yeah, Greg, maybe take a look at whatever was circulated at that time too.
Daniel, do you know if that was circulated to
I
us?
believe it was, at a minimum to Matt, but I can send you a copy as well.
Okay. And if Matt got it, I should be able to get it. That's great. And then I can get with Liz on that.
Because I would think, to follow up on Karen's question, Greg, I mean, I would think when this is presented to the Public Safety Committee, I would certainly want you guys to be at that table.
Yeah, I'll let Liz know about that.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay.
Tamisha, you had something?
yeah, I was just gonna ask, so did they, I might have missed it, but the considerations of working with FAA regarding the use of drones?
Yes, I know, when it was when the draft policy was circulated to us about two or 3 months ago, I think, they mentioned that one of the biggest barriers in terms of timelines was FAA certification and approvals, and they expected at that time for it to take approximately 6 months minimum to complete that process. So I'm not sure about the details for that, but it is being considered.
And the implication of privacy issues regarding the use of drones?
Again, yeah, it is being considered, and there's draft policy language related to that. I don't know how it'll shake out, or what exactly the version will be that they present to council. So,
Okay. Anything further from the board? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
A motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we will see you all. Any opposed? If not, we'll see you all on the other side. Thank you so much.